When I started this channel, one of the game series I wanted to cover in its entirety was Call of Duty. I owned almost all of the parts of that series at the moment, but I didn't play any of them. Besides that, everyone knows Call of Duty, and the campaigns are short, so it should be an easy review. Until now my assumptions were kind of right, but then I played Black Ops 3. Why is it different? I will explain. First of all, Black Ops 3. It seems like a third iteration of a series, but you should really see it as a separate game. It doesn't have anything to do with Black Ops 2 or 1. In part 3 you play a generic soldier, with no name. He's just called Player in the subtitles. In the beginning of the game, Player gets injured severely and can only be saved by installing prosthetic limbs, which are controlled by an artificial interface called DNI. Suddenly, Player is super strong and is able to do all kinds of abilities, like jumping far and hijacking enemy turrets. The story is a bit complicated, but I will try to summarize it without spoiling too much. So, the Player is part of an elite group in the US Army. His team finds out that there is a traitor within the army group, and they try to capture him. During this mission, they find out that the CIA is experimenting with the DNI to make people more conformist, which of course is very immoral. In these experiments, human specimens are used as guinea pigs, and when one of the labs explodes and kills 300,000 people, the CIA used the cover-up, which of course is even more immoral. With this knowledge, the Player and his team are a target themselves. They try to outsmart both the CIA and the traitor and other old teammates. So far, the story sounds fine, but nothing too special. There is one twist though. The reason that the Player's old teammates went rogue was that something is infecting their DNI interface. Eventually the Player gets infected too, causing him to hallucinate. These hallucinations are amazing, and for me, the highlight of the game. Okay, maybe I went too far ahead of myself here. Let's go back to the basics. Call of Duty is a first-person shooter. The focus of the game is on the multiplayer, and you can feel this even in the single-player campaign. In between the levels, you stay in a hub level, where you can customize your weapons and select a loadout. You can also play a practice scenario in the simulator. These hubs are small, but well designed, and change after each level. As soon as you start the level, you notice that most of them are wide and spacey, ideal for co-op missions. The weapons handle lovely, and even the few times that you drive a vehicle, it goes fine. The movement is also very smooth, not too fast, not too slow. I really like the handling in this game. The graphics are, like in all Call of Duty games, top notch. Just like the animations, the voice acting and the sound effects. No corners are cut, or at least not in an obvious way. Of course there are limitations. Many of the levels are much smaller than they seem to be, and points are blocked off. Or worse, you get a prompt on screen that tells you you have to go back, or else you have to start at the last checkpoint again. Then, the music. And yeah, the music in these kind of games is always a bit of a pain for me. Not because the music is bad, it is not, it is just I don't like it. It's the epic blockbuster movie soundtrack kind of music that you see in a lot of big films. Often the music climaxes just before something pivotal in the story happens, and this makes everything bigger than it already is. But the bad thing is that the whole soundtrack is quite forgettable and very predictable. It is effective, but definitely not something to listen outside of the game. So far, the Call of Duty games I played all suffered from the same problems, at least for me these are problems. The multiplayer is just not for me, because I don't stand a chance getting far. Also the co-op zombie mode is not interesting for me, because you need at least 4 people working together, and I do not have so many people that play this game at the same time. So what's left is the campaign, which is usually very polished but a bit shallow. It is short with an entertaining but very forgettable story in which you play a very normal soldier who suddenly becomes very important somehow. It is well done but usually far from creative. These were my expectations when I started Black Ops 3, and I wasn't disappointed until the story opens up and I realized that this Call of Duty is far more creative. It seems like the developers put all their creativity in these sections of the game, and they did well. Does this make Black Ops 3 a masterpiece? No, not at all. There's still some things that were very annoying to me. For example, I still do not like that militaristic atmosphere in some levels. It feels very forced. Another thing that I especially did not like was that it feels like you're playing a multiplayer match when you start a new level in the campaign. You have to select a loadout and upgrade your gun and things like that. I really didn't like this. And this ties to my final point. One of the greatest things in a first-person shooter for me is finding and experimenting with new weapons. But in Black Ops 3, this is actively discouraged. You need a perk to activate it to even be able to pick up enemy weapons. And when you finally can do this, you find out they're weak, because they're not upgraded. So in the end you stay with your starting weapons, because they're upgraded. You can change a loadout when you find certain crates in the level, but it's not the same, because usually you do not upgrade these weapons either. I really didn't like this system. Would I recommend Call of Duty Black Ops 3? Well, it all depends on what you're looking for. If you want a multiplayer shooter, then, well, you're a bit late. This game is already some years old. But if you want to play an engaging single player shooter, then it's a good option. It's a bit short, but right now it is very cheap and it's a very beautiful game with a surprising and interesting story. The best Call of Duty game I played so far, so it's surely worth a try. So, this is my review of Call of Duty Black Ops 3, the generic first-person shooter that turned out to be not too generic. I enjoyed this game way more than I thought I would. And yeah, I think this would actually be a good game even without being called Call of Duty. It didn't have that much to do with Call of Duty in my eyes. Especially those hallucination levels, they are very fine and everyone should at least have seen them. So if you're not thinking of playing this game, watch those levels on YouTube or something, they're really nice. And yeah, I finished this game a few months ago and I only review it now. But I hope you liked the review. Let me know, comment, subscribe, all those shit. And have a nice day. Bye bye.